The revolution that is coming is, is not, well, there's two things about it. One is it's not inevitable. It's possible. But secondly, I don't think it's going to come in the form of an event. It's not going to be the seizure of power in that kind of way that we've often thought about it. I do think that another world is not only possible as the World Social Forum would have it, but the U.S. empire is in irreversible decline. And like you, I've thought that since 1968, but I thought it might be 300-400 years. My timetable is accelerating. And I don't think it's just because I'm 67 years old, but I think that I think it's coming, and it's coming so rapidly that even the commentators in the New York Times can't deny it any longer. The only people who won't say it out loud are politicians. We are in an inevitable and irreversible decline as an empire. Another world is coming at us very, very rapidly. If you're my age, the thing that we have to contemplate and remember is that we lived at the peak of everything. The peak of U.S. empire, the peak of oil, the peak of capitalism as a producer of goods and so on. That's all changing, and the change is going to have dramatic implications for our lives. But the certainty that it's going to lead to people knowing that they should A, be in the streets, and B, have a progressive analysis isn't clear to me at all. Another world is coming, but it's not necessarily a better world. It could be a world, we're in a world of permanent war. That war could intensify. We could live in a world of nuclear war. That's not off the table. It's nowhere near off the table. We could live in a world of work camps and slavery. I think these are all possibilities. So again, what that says to me is, number one, we have to push back on ourselves and say we have a huge responsibility to overcome our cynicism, our pessimism, our self-imposed lack of confidence. And frankly, I think that those are the big obstacles for us, this kind of either this sense of preciousness I mentioned, the sense of being barricaded, or the sense that we hold a set of ideas that nobody could get but us. We have to be out there with our understandings, with our ideas. But more importantly than that, we have to change the way we live and do it demonstrably, do it in a way that shows people. So I look at the Zapatistas, or I look at the people of Spain or Greece who are taking over large sections of land and urban areas and creating for themselves a society they want to live in, a possible society. I look at Detroit and the work of Grace Lee Boggs, who, has been a mentor and inspiration for years. I look at the revolution that's happening in the consciousness of people in Detroit as they begin to rethink how they do transportation, labor, what work means, consumption, sharing, farming, gardening. Those are things that we need to be a part of, because that's part of where we're going to find the seeds of what we could, for shorthand, call revolution. But I always want to go back to Martin Luther King, and what we need is a revolution in consciousness. It's not just a revolution of seizing power. Even if we had that kind of revolution, there's no guarantee that women would be free, or that queers would be liberated, or that people of color, or that the environmental catastrophe would end. The environmental catastrophe is in many ways spurred on by by post-revolutionary society. So I just want to caution us that we not get too caught up in the single event, or that. But let's go back to McGibbon for 1 minute. His book Earth, he says we're living in it. It's not a question of if or when. We are there. Now, we can see manifestations of it, like the severe weather events and other things, but we're there. What does it mean for us? How are we going to think? One of the, when you think about the triple evils that Martin Luther King spoke about: militarism, racism, and materialism, consumption, consumerism. That's something that no one is addressing. I don't see the left addressing it. The left seems to think we can have a Prius in every pot. I don't see it. I don't think so. I think, in fact, I kind of go with the people like Mark Kurlansky and others who say, you shouldn't take any form of transportation. It's not public transportation or your car, walk if you can, ride a bike if you can. And if you can't, okay, public transportation. If you can't do that, okay. But the point is, we're going to be forced to rethink. But when we're forced to rethink, where is our analysis? Where is our positing of another world that's more humane, more decent, more just, fairer, less violent? That's the image. That's not only the image, that's the substance that we have to develop and nurture and build from the ground up.